You're listening to the City World Radio Network, high-definition digital radio broadcasting from the city to the world. www.cityworldradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time once again for the Johnny Mandolin Show, broadcasting live on City World Radio Network. We have a special in-studio guest, Sexton Records recording artist, New York's premier jazz guitar player, Larry Lugar, will be on the show tonight, and we'll be featuring his new album, Larry's Way, here on City World Radio Network. Don't touch it, because you're listening to the Johnny Mandolin Show. We'll be right back at you. Hey, that's our theme song and Nello's Blues, bringing us to another Johnny Mandolin Show here on the radio, having fun. I want to remind you that we're sponsored by Sexton Records. That's CEXTON.com. Sexton audiophile jazz label with the best in jazz, big band, and Italian-American music. So to the mic, I want to bring a person who I have great respect for as a musician and also a really good friend. And also, I have to say, a host on his own show here on City World Radio, Larry Lugar.
Hey, great to be here. Mr. Johnny Anello. I got to tell our listeners about Johnny Anello. He's very modest, but I get a kick out of him.
I'm glad you could come in, man.
Well, people talk about coming from a musical family. You come from a musical family because your father played 2 chords on the mandolin in 1939, But Johnny Mandolin studied the guitar with Joe Pass. And he records on the mandolin professionally and plays at Italian festivals.
That's it.
His father, you want to talk about a musical family? His father was Doc Anello, who, when I mentioned his name many years ago to a few older musicians like Nick Corella, who was a very respected traditional jazz musician, he said, "Oh, sure, I know him. He played with everybody." His father was a studio pro, and he played for all the famous singers. And you want to talk about a musical family even more, to the highest degree, his daughter is a world-class opera singer, Maria Anello.
Maria Anello.
Marie, I played her recording for some heavy classical musicians, okay? Heavy classical musicians. I'm telling you, They said she could sing in any major opera house in the world. You should be very proud to have
I
her.
am.
And she isn't conceited, unlike so many other people in the music business.
Sweet.
She's humble and sweet. And I
she
got to tell you, you're lucky to have a daughter like that.
I
wanna
totally
tell
agree.
You know.
I was very lucky. She's actually singing with the New York City Opera at Lincoln Center.
Is that
so she
cool
is with the big.
to say that your daughter is singing?
And to go way, way back, my grandfather, Benny Anello, was a jazz drummer and led a band in 1925 in Newark called the Paradise Serenaders. Benny.
That sounds like a guy in a movie. Benny Anello. Wait,
That was
you know,
my grandfather.
That's great. That's
drummer.
Great. That's a truly musical family.
A lot of music. So, Larry, you came to music early yourself. Tell us about how you got into it.
No, I mean, some guys started playing when they were 3. My earliest recollection of playing a musical instrument, I firmly believe sometimes a really bad thing happens, but something good happens. I broke my leg, which is very traumatic when you're like 8 years old. You're in the hospital for days.
Yeah, I broke mine too. I know.
Yeah, but a kind man who worked in the hospital brought me a harmonica, and there was a little diagram about how to play a scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, how you breathe in and out, and I taught myself how to play just about any diatonic melody, and because I got, a psychiatrist would say, I got approval from older people. Man, how do you do that? And none of my friends could do it as well. I guess I stuck with music. And then I took guitar lessons at a school in the Bronx with one of the old-fashioned guitar teachers who was really a fiddle player. He only played a little guitar, so I had to teach myself a lot. But after a couple of years, I was teaching at the New York, it was called the New York School of Music. It had branches in all the boroughs. But the point of the story is that, again, I believe the psychiatrists are right. When you get approval from people, oh, man, look at the kid. I didn't play very well, but just the idea that
you were appreciated.
You appreciate it, so I stuck with it. And here I am today on the Johnny Anello show, Johnny Mandolin show. You see? It all paid off somehow.
And I understand you're getting great reviews on your show, which is Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Wonderful Anthony Bez, who's a real, call him New York City's premier guitar aficionado. He's a heavy classical guitar player who writes for classical guitar magazines and is a heavy teacher. He's involved with the American Society of Classical Guitar and people like that. And he comes to see me at Lara Vista, and he's always very complimentary. So I said, why don't you listen to my CD? And he wrote really nice liner notes. And eventually I think he'll be a guest on your show. And
Absolutely. And we are celebrating Larry's new album, which is just coming out on Sexton Records. It's called Larry's Way, Mellow and Impromptu. And we're going to hear a bunch of cuts off this new album. But before we do, we have something else.
I did a little recording not that long ago for our own purposes, because I play very often. He's very often a guest on my show. His name is Mark McGowan, and he's a wonderful trumpet player. He gets a beautiful sound. He's very soulful and melodic, and he's very easy to work with. That's another thing. Some musicians, as I mentioned when I talked about Maria, you could be very competent in your field, but that doesn't mean you're easy to work with. Mark is exceptional because he's a great player and very easy to work with. And we decided to make a little recording. And again, things happen. That's why I like the word impromptu. You have to make the best of whatever happens. And we planned the recording, and the bass player was late. He got held up. So we're in the studio. I said, look, put the machine on. And I just played a duet with guitar and trumpet. And Mark liked it a lot, so I want you to hear it now. It's me on guitar and Mark McGowan on trumpet. Enjoy.
Very
That
nice.
song, it was done many years ago by one of the greatest singers who ever lived, Dinah Washington. She was very intense and very soulful. And I love that lyric, what a difference a day makes, 24 little hours.
Yeah.
Brought the idea when there's romance on the menu.
Yeah.
And what I dig about Mark McGowan, I mean, he obviously plays the trumpet very well, but besides that, he's so soulful that you kind of hear the words to the song when he plays, and that's very important to me. He's lyrical, you know.
Yeah, you guys did a very nice duet together, and I have to compliment you on your really nice chords there, some of those great inversions that really round out the solo of the trumpet. Really made it sound good. I mean, you know, a lot of guys just strum a chord, and you're playing some internal melodies there that really make a difference.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm largely influenced by Johnny Smith and Joe Pass for that kind of thing. And when I'm playing by myself, like Joe Pass had this thing that he kind of thought of it like he was doing a duet with his foot. Like the time is there. I don't have a rhythm section, but you can hear the pulse. That's very important. But I like very much the sound of because he's such a good player. It seems like his notes are coming right out of my chords. You know, so it's almost like he's the right hand of the piano, and I'm the left hand.
Yeah.
I love that because we're really
it sounded
listening to each other. And
sure
by the way, for those of you who are fans of my show, Mark will be with me a week from this coming Wednesday on the 16th, and we have a bass player will be joining us, so we're going to play as a trio. And whenever I play with Mark, a lot of people text me or email me that they really dig it.
And
now,
that's, wait,
that was a prelude.
That's Wednesday?
Wednesday, the 16th at 7 o'clock.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
So 4 o'clock in California for all our
Oh,
California
how about
listeners.
that? I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, and you know, Larry, you have this great new album out on Sexton Records, a label that focuses on live jazz and jazz musicians, and Sexton is all about live jazz and people who can really play, and Larry's one of them. So this new album, Larry's Way, Mellow and Impromptu, is interesting. We've got some great musicians on here. Why don't you tell us about the guys who play with you?
A bass player who plays with everybody, Dave Shake, and also on the saxophone, Mike Hashem, who plays all over the world. He even made a record with a symphony orchestra where he solos. The interesting thing is that it's along the same lines as what you just heard. I like to go into the studio, just put the machines on, and everything was done in one take. And Anthony Bez, who wrote the liner notes, couldn't believe it. He said everything was one take, because I like the feeling of spontaneity and that mellowness. Again, on this CD, as the recording you just heard exemplifies, there's no drummer, so you just hear that pretty sound of the guitar, this time with an upright bass, and Mike Hashem on the saxophone, and you're going to hear a blues written by Jimmy McHugh. What's the name of the first thing?
That's Your Red Wagon.
That's Your Red Wagon.
Yeah, and that's great. And Sexton's all about live jazz, so you exemplify it. All right, let's hear Larry's new album from Mellow and Impromptu. Larry's Way.
like the quarter note groove that Dave Shake lays down, and that blues. I didn't know that. That was introduced to me by Mike Hashem. It was written by Jimmy McHugh. I didn't even know he wrote a blues.
Yeah.
But it's really nice, groovy little thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then on the second song, we decided to do a conventional standard song that was originally written as a waltz by a great Broadway show composer, Richard Rodgers. It was originally in 3/4 time, but jazz musicians for a long time have been playing it in 4/4 and swing. And it's called Falling in Love with Love. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a great tune. Great, really, really fun to play over.
by Richard Rodgers. It's interesting.
Really great playing, man.
I played in a band that played a lot of his music, and Linda Rodgers, his daughter, produced the band, and it was interesting to meet her. She was worth millions and millions of dollars, because her father wrote these very successful Broadway shows. And that song is interesting because it's just a diatonic melody. There's no, in other words, if you were to play that melody, for people who don't understand how music is written down, if you were to play that melody in the key of C, there's no sharps or flats. It's just the white notes on the piano.
That's it.
But you remember it.
It is.
You listen to that, and you'll walk down the street. Another example of that is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Anybody who remembers that melody.
That's
it's
right.
Purely diatonic.
Yes.
And it takes a great skill to write a melody that you remember. And that's why jazz musicians are attracted to a melody like that, because you have something to work with, to enhance. CD so far, we heard like a swing era type blues that from your father's era. Then we heard a Broadway show tune that's played in a jazz style. And now we're going to hear a samba that I wrote.
All right. So I want to tell everybody we're at the halfway point here on the Johnny Mandolin Show, Sexton Records sponsored. And Larry Lugar's in the audience. If you're listening from out of state, feel free to send us an email. Larry has many CDs out, not just this one, but this is the newest one. And you can see his full line at larrylugar.com. Check him out. So now let's go on with another great tune from Larry's Way, mellow and impromptu.
The third selection is called Nuts and Raisins, and it's a samba that I wrote several years ago, named after the snack I used to eat while we were jamming, Nuts and Raisins. I hope you enjoy it.
Amazing. Larry Lugar. What a great tune. And you wrote that.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called Nuts and Raisins. As I said, it was named after the snack I used to have when we took breaks in our jam sessions.
That's cool.
And a lot of people don't understand the real art of jazz improvisation. It's really free association. Once you train your ear to hear these different chord progressions, you really just have to sing a little song in your head, and sometimes you're surprised at what you think of. Like, you go, how did I think of that? And you realize it's a little motif you heard somebody else play, or it could be a folk song, or Sonny Rollins would quote from a Broadway show tune, because you have so many things running around in your subconscious.
Yeah.
And that's what makes jazz so interesting. You yourself go, what? How did I think of that?
Yeah, you oftentimes a great jazz player will effortlessly quote a song, another song, and make it fit within the parameters of the jazz song.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fun. But also, you have to be the type of person who's willing to take chances in front of other people. You know, just like I'm speaking to you now, I could go off on a tangent or make a mistake in my vocabulary. You know what I'm talking about? You know, or that's the vernacular. Well, there's the vernacular in jazz too, like when I play a blues type lick, and it really is listening to each other and speaking the language, and that's why I like to play with these guys, because they're not just thinking about themselves. If you notice, everything they do enhances the quality of the music.
And it makes it like a Swiss time watch, where the time where people all play together, work together, all listen to each other, and it makes it really a beautiful homogeneous thing. And that's part of the fun of jazz. That's when you really see really top-notch jazz musicians like Larry Lugar.
Unfortunately, it's not always that way. So sometimes you go to a jam session and everybody's trying to cut one another, and that's not really what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a language, not an argument. But you know, nothing's perfect. The next song I'm going to do is a more up-tempo. It's an old standard written by Jerome Kern, and it was played by John Coltrane and many of the bebop. I love the title of it. This Will Be My Shining Hour. I hope you enjoy it. That's a song by Jerome Kern. He was famous for writing All the Things You Are and many other great standards. That's called This Will Be My Shining Hour. And as I mentioned before, what I'm happy about, these were all done in one take. We just put the machine on.
Well, that's what makes it so special. And like I said, that's the focus of Sexton Records. It's live acoustic jazz, and you do it well. By the way, this is from Larry's Way, Mellow and Impromptu, his new CD.
And another thing that jazz musicians do, I like to explain the concept of each song. They'll write a line over a chord progression to another song. Charlie Parker did it, Sonny Rollins, everybody. And my sister used to sing a song called Pennies from Heaven. It's an old song, and I wrote a line over it. So because it's you're changing, essentially, Pennies from Heaven, I call it Change in Pennies.
Yeah.
And I've recorded it before on my other Sexton record. As I said before, this is my 4th release on Sexton Records.
Right. And more to come.
And I hope you enjoy Change in Pennies.
And what your website where they can find you is?
Larry Lugar, LUGER.com.
LarryLugar.com. Check out Larry, and we're going to hear some more from Larry's new album.
And don't forget my show on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on City World Radio, the Sexton Records Jazz Hour. And I'll be joined by my GBE, that's my guitar buddy extraordinaire, Bill Wurtzel. We've been playing together for 30 years. Yeah, we started playing together when we were 2 years old.
And another great player, Bill Wurtzel, and a great guy, too.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for listening to Johnny Mandolin Show. Don't go away, because we're going to hear some more Larry Lugar music right now. Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank Jade, our engineer, who keeps us on the air and honest. Tune in every week. Now at our new time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time for the Johnny Mandolin Show. Here's Larry Lugar.
over for dinner?
Sure.